In March of 2023, I purchased my very first toy hauler. These are some of the things I wish I knew before buying a travel trailer. I haven't had too much time to ride motorcycles. What I have had time to do is sit inside of my camper with my husband and my cat and contemplate the things that we wish we knew before buying a travel trailer. So the first thing on my list of things that I really wish I knew before purchasing a camper is I wish I understood vehicle manufacturer tow ratings, like actual tow ratings. I think I've explained this in a couple of my videos with you guys, but in August of 2021, I purchased our Chevy Silverado 1500 and I thought that 11,000 pounds tow rating was amazing. Little did I know that, yeah, you're not supposed to go over 80,000 or 80% of your actual tow capacity. We learned that the hard way. We thought maybe we would tow some motorcycles in a trailer or, you know, a small trailer, stuff like that. And as, oh my gosh, I keep thinking I'm seeing things in the water and I'm like freaking myself. Anyway, as the years went on, we quickly realized that we wanted to travel further and stay longer and experience different things. So that led us to the purchase of our 2021 No Boundaries 19.1 toy hauler. Now, the toy hauler was very important to us because we have many different styles of motorcycles. I have multiple touring bikes. I also have a Harley-Davidson Dyna, a Royal Enfield Himalayan, and my husband has a Harley-Davidson Sportster and a Suzuki DR650. My touring bikes are made to tour, and I'm going to ride those motorcycles when I actually tour. Our other bikes, it's really nice to throw them in the trailer and have a place to live while we travel on the road. So when we purchased the No Boundaries toy hauler, it was our only option for the tow rating and the capacity of our truck. So on the same subject of tow ratings and truck capabilities, I wish I understood more about trailer weight. When we were shopping for trailers, the one thing I do dislike about shopping for trailers was a lot of the salesmen that I would speak to, especially if it were me talking to them instead of my husband, they would try to tell me that the dry rating of any trailer, especially if it was over 5,000-6,000 pounds, that it would be enough for my truck. And no matter how many times I would explain to them, like, I get it, but we're going to be hauling like 1,000 pounds of motorcycles in this as well. They didn't seem to understand that I needed a trailer that was a light enough weight trailer with a heavy enough load capacity to haul motorcycles. So I wish there was an easier way or a more clear way for manufacturers to like publicly state, this is our max tow rating, this is your max capacity or cargo load, and then this is how much the actual trailer can hold as a whole. We did months and months worth of research and ended up with the camper that we ended up with now, which is a lovely camper, but it's kind of difficult for two people and a cat to live in comfortably. Of course, we were already limited with our, the trailers that we could haul anyway, but holy moly, was it a tough learning curve to realize just how crappy the quality of these travel trailers are. I can't speak to things like actual RVs or coachmans or the Class B style campers and stuff. I can only really speak to the travel trailers because that's what I have. But these things are made like hunks of junk, and I really can't believe how much they get away charging for these travel trailers. But yeah, Jordan, my husband, has had to completely like reassemble half of the walls because they literally fell off while traveling down the road. Is that a turtle? There's like something in the water. That is a turtle. That's a huge turtle. Wow. Oh my gosh, the wildlife is coming out. That was awesome. Anyway, just the build quality in general of these travel trailers have been a really tough learning curve. Jordan has had to like completely recalk like half of the trailer, and then we just found another leak today because of all the rain we've been having. So these are just things that I wish people were a bit more vocal about when you watch these reviews online. We did buy a 2021 trailer and it has been worked on before we owned it. It's a used trailer, but it's just It's like highway robbery what these companies can get away with selling people. One of the hardest lessons that we have been learning on our little travel trailer journey is the actual boondocking capabilities and how important it is to be able to boondock. We wanted to give it a full year traveling in our trailer together to see if we actually wanted to invest in solar or any boondocking capabilities like battery banks, power stations, generators, stuff like that. And we decided to hold off and just see if we liked the actual camping experience in it. And we had to learn the hard way on our way south that, yeah, we really need something to be able to boondock and have heat when we're sleeping. At least, at the very minimum, we need to be able to heat our camper because it got down to, I think, 26 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was a miserable night. So we had to do a last-minute booking at a campground so that we could plug in our camper and plug in a heater and a heated blanket. So I do think boondocking in the future for us is going to be a bit more thought through. We have been doing some shopping around for like battery banks and stuff because I just like, with the amount of work that I have to do on the road, being able to charge all of my cameras, all of my laptops, like my batteries, Jordan's computer, everything, that's going to be important. So if you guys have any recommendations on battery banks, leave a comment down below. Another thing I kind of wish I would have known a bit more about, and I guess this ties into the capabilities of boondocking, is how expensive camping actually is. To put it into perspective, I went and stayed, my husband and I stayed at a state park in Savannah, Georgia for a week, exactly 7 days, and we paid $400 for a week to plug in. We didn't even have full hookup, like we didn't have septic, it was just water and electric. And I can't believe how expensive camping actually is. So, you know, on top of I own a home, I pay a mortgage, I have all of those bills coming out, and then on top of it, I'm paying hundreds and hundreds and if not thousands of dollars for a couple months to be able to travel and go camping. So it's something that obviously I thought of, but I was like, oh, if so many people do it, then it must be affordable. And if you're doing it full time, I think it's fine. I think it averages out to about the equivalent of a mortgage and owning a home, but it's just crazy to think that traveling full time is now the equivalent of owning a home and paying for a mortgage and all of your utilities. So that was a hard lesson for us to learn and find out. Oh, and speaking of, you know, utilities and bills, learning about having travel Wi-Fi, I can't believe how expensive. And I understand you're paying for convenience, but having Wi-Fi on the road, which is imperative to the type of work that I do, we didn't end up buying any to take with us on this trip, you know, this snowbird experience, because I just could not justify the fact that I'm already paying $100 for my internet at my house, and then I'm paying an additional, oh gosh, I think just looking into like Starlink or something, it was like a $650 just getting started to buy everything, and then $150 a month. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm like, you know, there are so many places that have free Wi-Fi anymore, so if I need to upload a video or check emails, I'll go to a McDonald's or something. I don't know. I do wish we would have done more research before purchasing our camper with all of that information, but it's still quite the learning curve. So something else that has been interesting for especially me, because when I travel on my motorcycle, you know, you have the luxury of going 75, 85, if you're in a hurry, plus 90 miles per hour on the highway. And you can just kind of get places in a decent amount of time because you can plan accordingly. When you're towing, you're going slow. And, you know, especially us in our little half-ton truck, we have to plan out our gas stops accordingly. We have to completely think of your route, where you go, if there's bridges or tunnels or things that you can't get through. It's very, very concerning. Or getting stuck in like a tiny little town. Yeah, just being able to plan your route and figure out the amount of time it's going to take to actually tow, that was a huge learning curve. So when I rode my road glide out to Sturgis separately from my husband towing our trailer, I literally got, I think, like 3 hours ahead of him just because of how quickly I was driving, my gas stops, how often he had to stop for gas, and we were just going slightly uphill the whole time. So poor Jordan, I don't think he said he got over 65 miles an hour. So these are just kind of the things that I've been thinking of, I wanted to share with you guys because I kind of wish I saw more videos like this, and it wouldn't have deterred me from purchasing what I purchased. If anything, I probably would have done a bit better job shopping for a truck before I bought my camper. So that really is all it comes down to, is I wish manufacturers were just a bit more honest with actual tow ratings and the transparency of tow ratings. And maybe that's me. I've never owned a truck before. My husband never owned a truck before. So these are just things that, you know, hindsight's 2020 and we're still learning. So I actually learned so many tips and tricks from you guys while posting these videos and being open and honest about it. So if you guys have any more tips or tricks or things that you had to learn the hard way while learning how to tow or use your camper, please leave a comment down below. My husband and I read through all of the comments. He has actually learned a lot from your comments, so he's definitely a bit more hands-on with certain things than I am. Now that the sun's coming out, I think I'm going to dry off my motorcycle and see if there's anywhere cool that I can go ride today, because I gotta get back on posting some videos for you guys. If you have any recommendations on the type of content you would like to see while I'm down here in Florida, away from the chilly cold air of Ohio, please let me know in the comments as well. But yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet and see you guys in the next one. And until then, you be good, and I'll catch you later.